Hi guys, so today I'm in a BMW 530e and it's the M Sport spec. It's not got any of the optional extras apart from the M Sport spec, but I'll tell you what, the specification this comes with is standard, and to be honest with you, it's very similar to the X7. The X7 I drove was an M Sport and that didn't have any extras on it either, but the very well specified vehicles are standard. I mean, you've not got things like the folding wing mirrors, you've not got things like the reverse camera. But what you have got is heated seats, you've got the gorgeous M Sport styling inside and out, you've got the BMW Pro screen, so it's a nice big screen, look at that you're looking at, and it's being the E, it's the plug-in hybrid, it's a PHEV plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It's the first PHEV we've had on the channel, and I'm really impressed with it. It's really, really nice. So again, you've got these really comfortable BMW seats that you're used to across the range, and this steering wheel, it's the M Sport steering wheel, it's the same one that was in the X7, and it's just really, really nice to hold in your hand. It looks nice with the M Sport badge on the sort of chrome styling, but it feels really, really nice and really solid, and it's just, by contrast, we're a little bit lower down than we were in the X7. But it's really, really comfortable. So this isn't fully charged, this vehicle, at the moment. It was on 20 miles when I got in it. 21 miles when I got in it, sorry. And it'll do a maximum of about 24 on a charge. It takes around 4.5 hours to charge on a domestic supply, which I don't think is bad, really. So it's 4.5 hours on a domestic 3-pin supply. That's with just plugging into a normal socket in your house. That's not with any, what you can do is you can have an electric vehicle charger put in at home that they connect to a 32 amp MCB, well, a 32 amp fuse spur connected to an MCB on your consumer unit, and that makes the thing charge even faster. And obviously if you had something with a range of 100 plus miles, you probably want something like that. But this thing on the domestic supply charged in 4.5 hours, which is great, because that means if you go staying at a friend's overnight or a hotel or something like that, you can just plug into their domestic supply in a caravan even, and you know that you'll be charging the car in 4.5 hours. If you look at something like the Honda E that I was in, that's great, and that does a charge in half an hour on one of these sort of rapid charges at the side of the road and at the motorway. You're going to use one of the more powerful chargers at home, you can do it really quick. But if you're using a 3-pin domestic supply, you're looking at like 19 hours to charge, I think. So that's what makes it less practical if you're staying at someone else's house. You go away and you're looking at 19 hours. Now, having said that, in 4.5 hours you would put some charge back in it. So, it's probably going in at the same kilowatt hour rate as it would be going in this. You might put 24 miles back in it. But the negative with that is if it's a pure electric vehicle and you put 24 miles in it, you've only got 25 miles you can go and then you're done. Whereas with this, you've got 25 miles, as soon as it's done it kicks over to the petrol combustion engine. So you've not got that range anxiety, which is great. You've not got the panic and the worry and thinking, where can I recharge this thing? And it's very, very cheap to charge on electric, and once it is charged, if you plug it in every night, and you can set it to charge in the middle of the night if you want, so that you're not running up your electric bill if you've got a cheaper off-peak tariff, then that might be enough to get you to and from work on your daily commute at 25 miles. And if it is, fantastic. It's, how much fuel are you realistically going to go through in 6 months? Maybe a tank every 3 months or something like that. So the total cost of ownership and the cost of running the thing is incredibly low, being a plug-in hybrid. And I think, as I say, at the moment, I'm a bit unsure whether in the UK, the grid, the capacity, the infrastructure in the UK is ready for solely electric vehicles. I mean, there's plenty of them out there and plenty of people drive them. But unless you go for sort of it depends. The issue is there's a bit of an argument here. So a lot of motoring journalists talk about range anxiety and talk about the fact that you can't go too far with these sort of Honda E, Nissan Leaf style things where they've got a range of about 100, 120 miles. And the argument that the dealers present is that how many people cover 100 miles in a single trip? So day to day, you probably don't. There's exceptions to that. Obviously, you might be someone who covers a lot of miles. You might be a rep. You might do it for work. You might do it for whatever reason. But I cover a lot of miles every day. It'd be useless for me. But realistically, most people probably commute. They go shopping. They do this. They do that. If you plugged it in every day and charged it every night like you do your phone, you'd probably be absolutely fine. There'd be occasions when you were doing a trip down south or a trip wherever where you would need that more than 120 miles in a day. And if you did, there are service stations that have these fast chargers on them. You can plug it in at someone's house, plug it in at a hotel, plug it in, at supermarkets now. So there are options, and it might slow you down a little bit. You have to wait half an hour for it to charge back up. But there are options, so that range maybe is okay. You don't need to go for a range-topping 450-mile Model X from Tesla with a price tag to match. But I think these plug-in hybrids are ideal, because at the moment, while we've not got that great infrastructure in the UK, you can do your daily commute in it for, a couple of pounds really, a couple of pence, sorry, really, in terms of how much it costs to charge. And then, should you need to, you flick over to the petrol combustion engine, and that sorts you out. So there's no worry, there's no panic, and I think that's the great thing about it. The other thing it's got the regenerative braking. So there's different modes in this car. So at the moment we're in, if we just go on the screen, there's different things. There's battery control. So with battery control, what it'll do is it'll run the vehicle on fuel, and it will charge the battery to whichever level you set. So say you say 60%, it'll run on fuel, and it'll use the fuel as well to charge the battery to get to 60%. So if there's a bit of the journey that, say for example, went in a low emission zone and you needed to stay in electric for that thing, and you had no fuel and you had no electric charge in the car, you could say, right, I need to get up to 18 miles to cover that element of the journey, so I want you to run on fuel, I want you to get it charged ready till we get there. The issue with that is obviously it negatively impacts on your fuel economy, and you will rinse petrol, it'll be pouring out the back as you're doing it, so that's something to bear in mind. Then we've got auto e-drive, and what that'll do then is the vehicle will decide, it's a bit like an eco mode on a car, where it decides what's best for it, what it knows best. So what the BMW will do then is it will decide where to use battery, where to use petrol, and where to get the, if you need a bit of extra power, you get onto the motorway, it might choose to put it into petrol. If you're just cruising along through town, through a city centre, it'll keep it in electric. So that's sort of a bit of a hybrid approach. And then the other one is Max e-drive. Now in Max e-drive, the vehicle will run solely on electric until it runs out. And the only time where that would change was, say for example, you absolutely thumped the car and you thought, right, I really need I need to get a shift on here. It might decide that it needs to engage the combustion engine. But other than that, it's going to stay as near as damn it possible. It's going to stay in that electric mode, which is, the most economical, greenest way of driving the vehicle. So what you can do is you can set a default, so you can set it so that as you get into the car, it automatically starts in a certain mode. This one's set to automatically start in the Max e-drive, so it will stay in that mode. You've then got your Eco Pro, Comfort, Sports mode. So Sports mode, obviously, if we're on electric, it's not going to sort of hold onto the gears like you would do with a combustion engine. What it does do is just make the steering a bit tighter, the suspension a bit tighter, and just makes it feel more sporty as you're going along. And it's preparing itself that it's probably going to get thumped. Comfort mode is just your everyday, nice and easy, nice and light steering, just driving along as regular. And Eco Pro mode is the most economical way of running the combustion engine, because it doesn't use batteries at all in that mode. So what sort of standard spec have we got on this car? We've got the heated seats, we've got the leather throughout, which is really nice. We've got the carbon fibre effect on the dash and on the door cars, which looks really nice. We've got this leather just continue throughout on the dash, on the doors, on the seats, the steering wheel, everything's leather about it. Carbon fibre continues into the middle around the iDrive and over the cup holders. And then we've got the BMW legendary joystick for controlling the Starship Enterprise, the one that we engage gears with, which, as I said, on the X7 now, they've enhanced that a lot. I do prefer the one on the X7, but this is still lovely. I love the shifter. I do like the way Mercedes do it, but I really do like this thing. It's a nice thing to hold, whereas the Mercedes thing, it's on the steering wheel, it's great, I love it, it's probably one of my favourite shifting options, but it's not something to hold onto while you're driving along, and if you've not got two hands on the wheel, maybe that's where you'd rest your hand. If you go into electric mode, you're running on electric, and you put the air conditioning on, it drops significantly. That's where I was going before when I went off on a bit of a tangent. So, for example, this had 19-20 miles in it when I turned it on, and it dropped to 16 the second I engaged the air conditioning. Now, if you use the climate control but don't engage air conditioning, it'll drop slightly but not as much. But today we've got a temperature reader on this thing. We're on 22 degrees at the moment. We've been at 30 degrees in Manchester today. So 22 degrees and at 30 degrees, you really want the aircon. There's no point in having it if you're not going to use the aircon. But that does impair on the that really does impede the battery capacity and how long you're going to get on that range. The other thing is you've got to bear in mind that if you're using it obviously for heating, you might want the air conditioning to warm the engine up quickly. You're going to use the heated seats in the winter, so in them winter months the battery life's nowhere near as good as on a summer's day with your window down. So there are these things that you've got to bear in mind, and again, it depends on what you commute. So if you commute sort of 8 miles on the journey to work, then even in winter you'll at least get to work. You might even get back as well. If you've got chargers available at work, then all the better. You know, you can stick it on charge when you get there, stick it on charge when you go home. And as with all these electric vehicles, really, they recommend that you charge them to 80%, and it just increases the longevity of the batteries, and you know, just keeps them running at the best, really. But if you're going on a long journey, you can set it to charge up to 100%. You can do that by plugging it in and setting it in the car. You can also do it with the mobile phone app, and they've all got their own phone apps where you can unlock it and lock it, and you can preheat the vehicle. I mean, the fact that you can preheat this vehicle, actually, when you think, sorry, I'm being blinded by the sun here, the fact that you can preheat this vehicle as well is quite a nice specified option, considering it's just a completely standard spec BMW 530e. The screen's fabulous. It's a really, really nice big display, so it's great for your satellite navigation. It's great for, you know, for Spotify and things like that. And it's got the dual split screen as well. So on the right hand side, you can select what you're having on there. You can control this with the iDrive. So this has got at the moment the sort of battery flow and showing how much energy's in and what's happening. Is there any regeneration going on? Are we putting power back into the battery as we're braking and as we're coming off the gas, or is it just flowing out, or what's going on? You can also adjust that to on your sat nav maps. You can have the left screen on something completely different, so you could have the left screen with Spotify on, or with your navigation on, and your right screen with your readouts of what's going on with the batteries, which is great. So that works really nicely. You've got the flappy paddles, but obviously they're only engaged once you're in the combustion engine mode. There's no point in trying to change gears when we're in electric mode, is there? You've also got this, I find this a really interesting looking button. So you've got, just to the side of the hazard switch in the middle of the dash, you've got this button which is a picture of a car surrounded by a yellow circle. And what it's basically illustrating is that all the protection systems are on. So things like collision avoidance, so that you're not going to go into the back of someone. It's got pedestrian avoidance as well, so we shouldn't run someone over in theory. If they've got things like lane keeping assist and blind spot monitoring, that's all part of that package. So you tap that button and you can customise that and turn it on and off as you will. But I think it's nice the way it illuminates around it to sort of show that's active and you're protected, other people are protected, and it gives off that message, really. The ambient lighting in this vehicle is really nice. You can see it in the door card, you can see it above the carbon effect on the dash, and it's something that you can see at night, in daylight as well, which is unusual because in most cars you can only see that at night time, and at night time they really do come alive, them ambient lighting packs. But in this you can actually see it in the day as well, which is great. Clocks are really nice. You've got digital cockpit on the thing, which it looks really, really nice. You've got everything you'd expect to be on there. So you've got your range, you've got your fuel, you've got your whether you as you come off the accelerator or as you brake, you see the speed actually pop into charging, so it goes back on itself, and then you can see that the batteries are actually charging up as you're coasting, really. Then obviously as it goes the other way, you can see that it's putting you in, it's obviously showing the speed you're travelling at. On the left hand side you've got your speed, on the right hand side you've got like a rev counter style thing which shows sort of how hard you're hitting the gas when you're in electric, and obviously shows your revs when you're on the combustion engine. But as you come off the accelerator and the thing starts to sort of slow down a bit, it goes into this charging mode, so you can see it putting energy back into the batteries with the regenerative braking. I'd say the regenerative braking on this is nowhere near as powerful as on, say, a Tesla or on a Honda E or a BMW i3 or something like that, a true EV, a true electric vehicle. And as you come off the gas on that, sometimes it's quite hard to get used to, and it can be a bit annoying, really, because as you come off, it really does punch the brakes almost, but without touching the brake pads and discs. I suppose the disengages the motor, puts it in reverse. Whereas with this, it slows you down and you get the charge back into the batteries, but it doesn't slow you down stupidly. So it's much more than a combustion engine vehicle would, with your engine braking. But it's not. It just doesn't go silly. The space is smaller than, say, a standard 5 Series because you've actually got the batteries underneath the. You've got the batteries underneath the boot floor, so that does take up a bit of the boot space. So you've got sort of, it's level with, not as you open the boot, but there's a bit of a step down, but nowhere near as deep as a normal boot would be. You've still got the length of the thing, which is obviously big on a 5 Series, but you've not got the depth that you would have in a conventional combustion engine that's not got the batteries underneath. So that's something to bear in mind. The seats do, the rear seats do fold down, so you can use it as for carrying larger items. The back's really comfy and really spacious, being a 5 Series. They're a nice, comfortable vehicle to be in the rear and to travel long journeys in. You've got the black headlining in this vehicle, which at night time makes the car really dark, and it black headlining in a car to me just really enhances the look, especially if you've got black leather everywhere. I think the black headlining really does make it stand out and look very special. So I think we'll leave that there today. I hope you've enjoyed this video in the 530e, and if you have, please do smash that like button. If you've not subscribed to the channel already, please do, and ring the bell so you get notified of all the new content I drop, and I'll see you all very soon.